A Cinderella Cuento, retold in Spanish and English by Joe Hayes. Estrellita de Oro, Little Gold Star. Illustrated by Gloria Osuna Perez and Lucia Angela Perez. Long, long ago, there lived a man whose wife had died. The only family he had was a daughter whose name was Arcia. The man's neighbor was a woman named Margarita, and her husband had died. Margarita had two daughters. Every day, when Arcia would walk down the street in front of Margarita's house, the neighbor would come out and give her something good to eat. She gave her pan dulce or cookies or little honey cakes. One day, Arcia said to her father, "Papa, why don't you marry our neighbor? She's very good to me. She gives me something sweet to eat almost every day." Her father didn't want to do it. "You'll see, daughter," he said to Arcia. "Today Margarita is so sweet and kind, but her sweetness will turn bitter with time." But Arcia insisted, "No, she's a nice woman, and you should marry her." Finally, she got her way, and her father married their neighbor. At first, everything was fine, but summer came, and the man went off to the mountains to take his sheep to the high meadows. The stepsisters started quarreling with Arcia. Margarita no longer liked Arcia. She was very unkind to her. She bought many beautiful gifts for her own daughters, silken dresses and gold jewelry. But when Arcia's shoes wore out, at first everything was fine, but when summer came and the man went off to the mountains to take his sheep to the high meadows, the stepsisters started quarreling with Arcia. Margarita no longer liked Arcia. She was very unkind to her. She bought many beautiful gifts for her own daughters, silken dresses and gold jewelry. But when Arcia's shoes wore out, she didn't even buy her a new pair. Arcia had to go around barefoot. In time, the bedroom was so full of the beautiful things of the stepsisters that there was no room for Arcia to sleep there. She had to move to the kitchen and sleep next to the stove. When Arcia's father returned from the mountains, he chose 3 young sheep from the flock. He gave 1 sheep to each girl. "Take your sheep carefully," he told them. "When they're full grown, you can sell them and keep the money yourselves. Or if you wish, I'll shear the sheep and you can spin and weave the wool." The girls began tending their sheep, and Arcia took the best care of hers. Before long, it was the fattest of the 3 and covered with thick wool. One day, Arcia said to her father, "Papa, I want you to shear my sheep for me. I'll spin the wool and weave it into a blanket to keep you warm when you go to the mountains." So the man sheared his daughter's sheep, and Arcia carried the wool down the river to wash it. She was bending over, washing the wool in the water of the stream, when suddenly a big hawk came swooping down from the sky and snatched it away from her. Arcia called out to the bird, "Señor Hawk, please give my wool back to me." And the hawk replied to her with human speech, "Lift up your eyes. Look where I fly." So she did what the bird had told her to do. She turned her head and looked up. When she looked up, down from the sky came a little gold star, and it fastened itself to her forehead. She went running home. As she ran along, the wool fell into her arms, already washed and spun and woven into fine cloth. When she got home, Margarita said, "Take that piece of thin off your forehead." And she grabbed her and tried to scrape the star off. But the more she scraped, the more brightly it shone. Her stepsisters were filled with jealousy. They said, "Why shouldn't we have a star on our foreheads too?" And they went looking for their stepfather to have him shear their sheep. The first one found him and ordered him to shear her sheep. She went running to the river with the wool. As she was washing it in the water of the stream, the hawk came swooping down again and snatched it away. "You evil bird," she screamed, "bring my wool back to me." The hawk called down, "Lift up your eyes. Look where I fly." "What?" she said. "Don't tell me where to look. I'll look wherever I want to. Bring my wool back right now." But finally, she had to look up to see where the hawk had gone. When she did look, down from the sky came a long floppy donkey ear and fastened itself to her forehead. The girl ran home crying. When her mother saw her, she gasped, "Bring me my scissors." She took her scissors and snipped off the donkey's ear, but a longer and floppier one grew in its place. From that day on, everyone in the village called the girl Donkey Ear. But the other sister didn't know what had happened, and when she went to the river with the wool from her sheep, she started to wash it in the water, and again the hawk swooped down and snatched it away. "You rotten hawk," she shouted, "bring my wool back. Lift up your eyes. Look where I fly. I don't have to obey you. Bring my wool back this instant." But she too had to look up to find out where the hawk had gone. When she looked up, down from the sky came a long green cow horn, and it stuck to her forehead. She ran home, and when her mother saw her, she said, "Bring me a saw." With a saw, she tried to cut the cow horn off, but the more she cut, the longer and greener it grew. From that day on, everyone in the village called her Greenhorn. But all the villagers called Arcia Little Gold Star. And so Margarita wouldn't let Arcia go to town anymore. She made her stay home and do all the work. She had to cook supper and clean the house and wash the clothes. She had to chop firewood and carry water from the well. And then one day, when Arcia was going to the well with her bucket, a messenger from the king's palace came by. He was spreading the word that the prince had decided he would like to get married. Since he couldn't find any girl in his own village to fall in love with, he thought he'd give a big party. Every girl from every village throughout the mountains was invited so that the prince could find a bride. Arcia told her stepsisters what she had heard, and when the day of the party arrived, she helped them get dressed in their silken gowns. She fixed their hair for them so that it would hide the horrible things on their foreheads. She went to the door and waved goodbyes as they went off to the party. She didn't even have a pair of shoes, much less a fancy dress for a party, so she had to stay home. That evening, all by herself at home, she began to feel sad. She thought it won't do any harm if I just go to the palace and look in the window to see what a fine party is like. She went to the palace and crept up to the window and peeked in. When she peeked through the window, the little gold star on her forehead began to shine more brightly than the sun. Everyone turned to look. The prince called out, "Have the girl with the gold star come in here." And his servants went running to bring Arcia into the party. But when Arcia saw the servants, she was frightened and ran home. The next day, the prince and his servants started going from house to house looking for that girl with the gold star. Finally, they came to Arcia's house, but Margarita made her hide under the table in the kitchen and ordered her not to come out. The woman called for her own daughters and presented them to the prince. "Your Majesty, one of these might be the girl you're looking for. Aren't they lovely young women?" The prince took one look at the girls and gasped. He saw the cow horn and the donkey ear on their foreheads. "No, Senora," the prince said politely. "I don't think either one is the girl I'm looking for." And he started backing toward the door. But just then, the cat got up from her bed by the fireplace and walked toward the prince. The cat rubbed against the prince's ankle and purred, "Meow, meow." "Arcia is hiding under the table." "What was that?" the prince asked. "Did the cat say someone is under the table?" "Oh no," the woman said. "The cat's just hungry." She picked up the cat and threw it outside. But the cat came right back and rubbed against the prince's other ankle. "Meow, meow." "Arcia is hiding under the table." "Yes," the prince insisted. "The cat said someone is under the table. Who is it?" And he told his servants to find out. When Arcia saw the servants coming toward her, she stood up. Even in her dirty rag old clothes, she looked as fine and noble as a princess. The prince fell in love with her at first sight. The prince asked Arcia to marry him, and as she said she would, a few days later, the wedding celebration began. It lasted for 9 days and 9 nights. And the last day was better than the first, and everyone was invited, even the mean Margarita and her 2 daughters, Greenhorn and Donkey Ear. I came on a colt, and I'll live on its mother. If you like this story, then tell me another. Okay, kids, subscribe to my channel and give it a like.
Guys, subscribe to her channel, by the way.
Story time with Miss Anna. See you guys. Bye.